everyone, and welcome to episode 8 of the Shinesparkers podcast. I'm Amanda Van Heil. I'll be your host, joined with Darren, our creative director, Roy, our deputy creative director, and we also have a very special guest today. Voice actress Jessica Martin is here. Jessica, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi. I voiced Samus in Other M, and I'm also an actor of stage, screen, television, and also various audiobooks and games. You hear my voice. Also directing sometimes. Kind of pivoted a little bit. But we'll talk about that later.
Well, see, this way you get to see all sides of it, and that's what's fun. I'm excited to get to talk with you, too, because I've been acting since I was 12 myself. So.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, I'm always excited to get to talk shop with other actors, especially ones that are done like major productions, and
we can commiserate.
Always enjoying. Oh my gosh, yes.
It's fantastic to have you here, Jessica. Thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
It's an honor, I have to tell you.
Ma. You're making me blush, guys.
All right, well, let's just start from the beginning. Tell us, how did you decide to just become an actress? I know it's not an easy path to take. I can tell you that from experience.
It is not. Stephen Pressfield has a book. I can't remember what book it's from, but one of the chapters is called Stay Stupid. And I think I've just consistently done that through my career, which is why I'm still doing what I do. But I caught the acting bug, which is a thing that happens. It's like a phrase, but also I feel like it really happens. I was in kindergarten, and my mom put me in this after-school drama class, and we were improvising Little Red Riding Hood scenes, and I just remember thinking, oh my God, I love this. I'm going to be so good at this. I probably wasn't good at it, but anyway, I loved the process. Of course, at that age, you don't really know what it is. And so I knew that there was this thing that existed that made me excited and made my brain start whirring. And I always loved movies, and we didn't go to plays so much when I was a kid, but I just love stories, whether it was a book or movie, television show. And then it wasn't until high school that I actually started pursuing being an actor, because I always thought I needed to pursue something in the sciences. I need to have, quote unquote, a real career, which I'm very much interested in science and everything. But there was always in the back of my mind, oh, there's this other thing that I'd really like to do. And so on a whim, I didn't make the high school dance team. I'm a horrible dancer. But it worked out because I auditioned for a play and I got in, and that was it. I started from there, and then I went to university and studied, and then I started my professional career while I was still in university. So it's been a long path, but it's been a really fun and interesting one.
That's awesome. And yeah, like you said, the acting bug does exist. You have to be called to be an actor. I guess I feel like it's once it hits, it's yep, this is what I got to do.
Yeah. And it doesn't go away.
You wouldn't put yourself through it otherwise.
It's terminal. Yeah.
Yep.
I believe you have to be called to this work because it is so hard and challenging, and if your heart wasn't totally in it, by all means, please live a happy, fruitful life doing something else.
Please don't hurt yourself anymore and get out as soon as you can.
Don't do it. But for those of us who are called, we love it, and we're so excited to. Every time you walk into a booth or you step onto a stage, you get that rush. And for me, thankfully, that feeling has never gone away.
All right, Roy, I love that. I just love all of that.
Yeah.
Roy, let's go on ahead and I'm going to go ahead and send it to Roy because otherwise I'm just going to start talking, acting with you the entire time, and that's all it's going to be.
We can have like a breakout episode where we just talk that stuff.
Absolutely.
You're welcome to come back for another one in the future.
Tell funny theater stories of.
Oh boy. Got a lot.
Because I know we've all had to do the cheap theater where bugs are crawling everywhere and.
Ooh, I haven't had a bug experience, so.
Oh,
knock on wood.
Oh, I have.
That I don't have to. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, that's the joys of living in a small town. You have like the little small town community theater. It's like, oh, this place is infested.
That's I need a treatment on that. Make it safe for folks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, Roy, let's go ahead and hear your question.
Okay. Now, your work includes credits in video games, movies, and TV. I was curious if you had a dream acting role that you would like to play in the future, or if you've already played that.
Yes. I've been very lucky in that my first, I call them like my bucket list roles, right? My first bucket list role was Ophelia in Hamlet. And that was the role that started my career, my professional career. So I was like, well, it's all downhill from here. And that was a dream come true. And then, as I've gotten older and other roles have spoken to me, the role of Kira in David Hare's Skylight was just like a dream role for me. And it's rarely produced, that play. And I was extremely fortunate to have been in a production of it last year here in California. And so, I've been able to do that twice. And so I'm just going to put it out into the universe now that I'm sure a lot of us have watched Hamilton, either, in theater if we're lucky enough, or online now that it's streaming. And I just would love to play King George. I think that's just such a fun part, such a fun song. And I don't see why he couldn't be played by a woman in that production. So I think that's my next one. It's kind of hard for television and film to have dream roles because, first of all, you don't know what scripts are being written. You don't know what scripts are going to be produced. So you just don't know what's coming down the pipeline. But with plays, you can see it, you can read the scripts, and so you can have these kind of in your back pocket for so long. So I find I usually adhere to plays that I would love to do at some point. But, obviously there's, maybe someday I can play a really cool detective in a TV show or a movie or something. So I'm always thinking of roles that I would like to play. Mainly, I just like to do different things. You don't want to be doing the same thing all the time as an actor, playing the same role. So whatever is kind of out of the box for me is really exciting. And there's always those roles that pass you by. So when I was a kid. Like most of us, the Harry Potter books were very, dear to our hearts. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to age myself here, but when I was reading the books, that was long before the movies had come out or even really been optioned at that point. I don't know. But I just knew as a kid that I could be Hermione Granger. And as I was cleaning a few years ago, I found that I had written a letter to J.K. Rowling that I never sent, but I was just like, look, I need to play Hermione Granger. And at this point, I had no acting training. I had no, I hadn't done any acting stuff in my life. But, you just like connect with these characters and you just think, oh, if only I could be the person to bring them to life. But, Emma Watson, can't go wrong with her. She's great.
I know for the longest time, I wanted so badly to play Marion in The Music Man. And I just for years, that's all I wanted. And then I got sick. I can't sing anymore. So that's like something that'll never happen. But there will be something else that'll be just as cool.
Yeah, there's always something else. Or, sometimes you can write your dream role.
Yeah.
There's always more to do.
And it could be your dream role just doesn't exist yet.
That's very true. That's a good point. It hasn't been written. It will be written. And it'll come to you at the right time.
Exactly. All right, Darren.
Yeah. So, how did the role of Samus in Metroid Other M open up to you? Could you share how you were approached or auditioned for Samus and what that process involved?
Yeah. So, I mean, with a lot of stuff, I can't talk that many particulars, but just generally for video games, you get some copy, like some lines from your agent, and you record it either at home, or I actually went into my agent's office for that one, and you record it, you send it off, and you usually hear nothing ever, because they don't tell you like thanks but no thanks. They only tell you if you get it. And oftentimes they're auditioning hundreds if not thousands of people for things. And they never, because video games are so kind of top secret, they never tell you what the game is that you're auditioning for. In all of the games that I've done, like I don't know what they are. It's always a fake name. And that's just for the company to protect their story and all of that. And so that's how it happened with Metroid, is that I got the call that this game wanted some auditions, and they'd like to hear me read, and so I sent it in, and I think it was a couple of scenes, and that was it. And from those 2 scenes, I got the job. Which, like, saying it out loud right now sounds insane, but that's how it happened. That's how it happened, and I'll always remember when I got the job, because at that point in time, Seattle was experiencing a crazy snowstorm, so I was snowed in to my apartment. There's like 2 to 3 feet of snow on the ground, so people can't go anywhere, and I got the call from my agent. And I'm like looking out the window into all this snow, and she's like, "Okay, so I wanted to talk about the contracts or whatever." I'm like, "What? Wait, what? What are you talking about?" She's like, "Oh, that Nintendo job, you got it." I was like, "Oh, cool, okay, great."
Wow.
Yeah, and then it wasn't long after that I went in for my my first session. So sometimes things take a long time, and then sometimes they happen very quickly.
So, yeah. So what was your experience and knowledge of the Metroid franchise before you accepted the role of Samus? Like, did you know much about it?
I think I famously did not, which is probably a good thing, because if I did know and then I found out who I was playing, I would have been very nervous. I mean, of course I was nervous, but that would have been just another level. Growing up, my sister and I were not allowed to have any video games. My parents said, like, we'll buy you as many books as you want, but no video games. We had some like CD-ROM games for the family computer, but they're all like kind of education-based, like Carmen Sandiego and Reader Rabbit.
I had those growing up.
Yeah, classics. But I only really got to play video games when I was like at my cousin's house or at the neighbor's house, and of course I knew like Mario and Luigi. But if they didn't have a game, there was no way for me of knowing about it. So I had absolutely no knowledge of Samus or of Metroid, or of the the story of the games and how she takes her helmet off at the end, and you're like, what? She's a girl? So I was blissfully ignorant coming into playing her, which I'm actually very grateful for, because I didn't come in with any preconceived notions. I got to discover her. I kind of feel like Samus and I got to discover each other together at the same time. So none, to answer your question.
I mean, that's pretty great because it gave a fresh interpretation. It gave your own interpretation. Like you were saying, instead of coming in with preconceived notions of everybody saying, oh, this is how Samus is supposed to be. You got to discover the character and come up with it on your own. And it gave a new light to the character.
Yeah, I think so. I hope so. Yeah.
So in an interview with Game Trailers, it's quite an old one now, you said that the lines for the game were recorded over the period of a year between January 2009 to 2010. We just wanted to understand a little bit more about the time that it took to record Samus and what a typical day or a typical month would be for recording.
Again, like, I can't talk a lot of specifics, but like most video games that I have worked on, you'll come in for like little stretches of time. So you'll have a few days here, a few days there, and you're oftentimes working on the things that they're going to animate next. With a lot of voiceover and animation, you record the voice actors first, and then you animate to match. And so oftentimes for a game, you will go in and record, whether you're doing voiceover or motion capture, performance capture, whatever it is. And it'll just be for a few days here and there, in my experience. And then, you go, everyone goes away for a while, you come back. So it was not like a continuous recording through that chunk of time. But yeah, it was almost a 2-year period where I was involved in the process.
Oh, okay. I know that there was some delays, I think, to the game's release as well back then, so I wasn't sure if that was just down to the voice acting, or there might have been other reasons behind it. So,
so I mean, maybe at the time I knew that, but I'm not remembering that. But there are just so many things that go into a video game, and so many people involved that, there's just so many things that can hold it up. So I couldn't speak to that because I wasn't involved in any of that stuff. But
of course, of course.
Yeah.
And Other M was a pretty huge production with dozens of companies helping here and there with cutscenes and such.
Yeah, in terms of the scale of the project, it was very impressive.
Yeah, and I'm just like a tiny bit of that. I mean, you hear my voice the whole time, but really, like, I just came in for a little bit, and there were so many people that were just working for years, every day, so many hours a day to make this game happen. And so, I often feel like I'm just riding on their coattails. Yeah.
Yeah, everyone played their role and created something together, and it's absolutely fascinating how much effort and time and dedication goes into creating a game. And as the end user, as the person that plays that game, we don't see that process. So, interviews like this and actually speaking to you about your part, it gives us that insight that we might not otherwise have. So yeah, that's great.
Yeah. And then to answer your question about what a typical day is recording, you're only there for a few hours because your voice gets tired. Like when you're talking constantly, your voice gets tired, especially if you're doing effort sounds. a lot of times they will just schedule like one day at the end of the week where you're just doing your effort sounds, because you're going to trash your voice and you're not going to be any good to record like the day after. So you're really not in the booth for that long. I mean, time flies, but for only a few hours a day are you recording.
By effort sounds, you mean like grunts or screams?
Right. The sounds of grunts, like when a character gets hit, you have to make that reaction sound, or if they're falling, you make that sound, or screaming, or like running, where you have to do so many different options. Like, okay, it's just like kind of a casual jog. What is that? What is your breath like? And then, okay, you're sprinting. What is your breath like? So it's just like doing each action and then elevating the level. So like when you're playing a character and the fight escalates, the effort noises that you hear also escalate in intensity. I have to say I'm quite proud of my lava death screams. So if you play through again, just like jump off the platform a few times into the lava and enjoy my work.
I didn't need to jump off purposely. I fell in multiple times.
It is not an easy level or portion of the game. So knowing that, you can go back and purposefully jump.
And every time you fall, you can just say, no, I meant to do that. I wanted to hear the scream again.
I totally did, yeah.
How much of the Other M story were you given either during recording or before you started?
This will be a really short answer, because none. For video games, they are so top secret that you do not know what you are going to record until you get there. I've never had my pages beforehand. So that's where, like having good training, like being able to read text sight read text is really important and comes in handy. So, I would know that I would be going in for a session, but you don't know what you're going to do when you get there.
So this is a question that I'm sure a lot of people are probably waiting to hear. You may be aware that fans of the series had a polarized reaction to Other M, much of which was directed at the tone of Samus's voice and her characterization. Can you tell us how you personally felt about that?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, whatever you make, whether it's a video game or a film or a play performance, you have no control over how people are going to receive it. And there's always going to be people that like what you do, and there's going to be people that don't. And so I try not to get caught up too much in thinking like, oh, well, these folks didn't like it, because everyone's entitled to their opinion about a piece of, a creative work. I mean, I guess all I can say is that I'm really proud for the work that I did on the project, and I'm proud of the work that everyone did on the project. So, I stand by the game, and if it wasn't their favorite, then hopefully there's another game that they love, and if it is their favorite, then super duper, and that is very exciting.
Yeah, I think that's a good answer. I personally, when I played through it, I understood and appreciated the fact that I could be wrong, but I might have misinterpreted this, but I didn't believe that Samus as a character was a great communicator and probably wasn't good at having those kind of conversations. So I appreciated it for what it was. I didn't have any particular issues with it. And like you said, there's people that will have their favorites. And, just because someone's created a game that they don't like, it doesn't take away from all the other games that they've loved. They're always going to be there and they can always play those at any time. And I know that there are quite a lot of people that also really appreciate the performance. And I suppose, like you say, you can't control how people feel.
Something I wanted to add to address some of the criticism. A lot of people said, oh, Samus's voice is emotionless or droning. The thing is, Samus is a character that has very deep psychological scars. If you know anything about her origins and the role Ridley played in them, which is kind of reflected in the scene where she sees him in Other M, it's unrealistic to expect that she's going to have a lot of emotions. She is a character that's been through a lot. As Darren pointed out, she doesn't talk to a lot of other people most of the time. Other M is really one of the few Metroid games where there are other humans. So she's kind of a loner and she keeps to herself, so it's not realistic to expect that she would speak very animated when she's being introspective. In addition to the game, you also recorded lines for Samus in a stunning live-action commercial for the game, where she walks through events in her past. What was it like to record for a TV commercial, and do you have any cool memories from the recording?
Not really. It's going to be a very unexciting answer because I recorded the lines before, like, the visuals, or at least that I saw the visuals. It was just kind of a regular day. You go in and you record. But something that was really fun is that my parents were on a trip to Boston, and they were walking through a mall, and they walked by a game store, and they heard my voice coming out of it. And so they walk into the store, and the commercial was playing. And so they run up to the clerk, and they're like, "That's our daughter! That's our daughter!" And he's like, "Wait, what? Who's your daughter?" So that was a very fun and sweet story. And, for my parents who never allowed us to have video games, for them to have that experience, it was really cool. And of course, they bought a copy of the game, and they even bought a Wii to go with it. So after all this time, I just had to be in a game to get a video game. That's all.
There you go. That's all you needed to do, is actually be in a video game in order to get a games console.
Yeah.
That's a much cooler story than the one I have of seeing the commercial on TV. I was at a local pizza restaurant with my family, and the commercial came on during, they play the football or hockey or whatever it was. And then during the commercial break, it played, didn't hear the audio, but I saw the visuals and got very excited. And my dad said, "There she is," referring to Samus. So
Aww.
I think your story is cooler.
That's a pretty cool one. Like, it was a stunning commercial. It was beautiful. It was very
gorgeous.
impressed. Yeah.
I don't think we actually got the commercial over here in the UK, and if we
Really?
did, I certainly didn't see it. Yeah, unfortunately. I mean, it
Well, you have
may
to go on
I just didn't
YouTube.
see it. Well, I did see it, and this was the thing.
Okay.
Yeah, I eventually saw it, and for me, as a Metroid fan, seeing these scenes in a TV commercial, pretty iconic scenes from previous games, seeing them on a screen like that, thinking, gosh, thousands, if not tens of thousands of people have been able to see this, and it's incredible. It's amazing to think that has happened, because Metroid's one of those series that people, or should we say Nintendo, probably don't put as much importance to compared to, say, Mario or The Legend of Zelda. So seeing that, it just felt like they put so much effort into that. and
Mhm.
I felt very proud. It was great to see it, and I just
Oh.
hoped that lots of people would pick up the game and try it out. But yeah, I'm disappointed that we didn't get it in the UK, or at least I didn't see it, because it would have been fantastic. But yeah, what about you, Amanda? Did you manage to see the commercial when it came out? Do you remember seeing it?
I didn't. It was probably because when that came out, it was probably did the commercial come out in 2009 or 2010? I wasn't
It would
sure.
have been
if it came out before
2010
the
Yeah,
because
game.
I think it was about a
2010.
month before it
2010.
launched. Yeah,
It would have been 2010.
Trying to think what I was doing then. That was when I was working at the art center, so I did not really get a chance to watch much of anything. So I never saw it, the commercial when it first came out, unfortunately. So I don't have like any of that exciting moment or anything.
Yeah, I don't know that I ever saw it on the TV. I probably would have seen it online afterwards or whenever it released.
yes.
Or like the team at Nintendo may have just like sent it to me to be like, "Hey, here's the cool thing we made." It could have been any of those things. I don't remember. But I do remember folks, like texting and emailing, being like, "Hey, we saw the commercial. We heard your voice." So that was fun.
So, after the release of the game, you were able to get a hold of a copy of Metroid Other M for yourself and experience the game. Were you able to complete it, and what were your impressions of the final game and your own performance?
Yes, we did get a copy, and uh, because I've never played video games, I could not get past the demo mode. I
Okay.
did not have the skills needed, but a very lovely and gracious friend of mine who has been playing video games for a very long time, he played through the game. So we would have like kind of these marathon sessions where we would he would play through chunks of the game and then I would
Mhm.
watch. Um, and, a lot of it, because it happened over so long, like you don't remember and then you see it and you're like, oh, right, I remember that. Um,
Yeah.
and so it was just very cool. It was exciting. It was, uh, I just kept thinking about all the folks that I worked with and all of the work we put in and then all the other people that I never even met that made this game and just being really like proud and excited for everybody involved.
Mm.
And I really enjoyed it. I, as an actor, you're your own worst critic. So it took me a little while to kind of get over that and just to
Mm.
listen and enjoy the game. Um, but I think like I said before, like I'm uh I guess just proud of the work that Samus and I did together on that
Mhm.
game.
Yeah.
Because I always feel like I'm meeting a character halfway on anything I do. Um, so I was just happy with that journey we made together, especially at that point in my life. I was a young woman and I had been through some trauma prior to recording, and so to have to be able to connect with a character who was so strong, who also experienced trauma, um, it was, uh, it was just like it was almost like nice to have a friend in her, and so it was just nice to have that connection with the character um, and just to enjoy watching it.
Mhm. Mhm.
And to kind of
That's
like have a catalog of that moment in my life, um, which any film you do or anything you can go back and be like, oh right, not only do I remember this work that I did, but I remember this chapter in my life, and
yeah.
it gets like almost memorialized in whatever you're making.
That's a fantastic answer. And I will just say, if you did ever want to go back and experience that, if you didn't want to play through the game, one great thing about Other M was that there was a movie mode, which combined the cutscenes and gameplay footage
Yes.
together, and you could just watch through the whole thing like it's a movie, which I thought was really cool. And I kind of wish that we had more of that in games. I can't think of any other examples where that's been done before. I'm sure it has. I'm sure there's people that are listening that are thinking, "Oh, what are you talking about?" Of course, that's a common thing. I'm not aware of it, but that was certainly my first experience of seeing something like that. And I have to say, I have watched through it a couple of times since then as well. I think it unlocks once you've actually completed the game, which makes sense.
You have to
Yeah.
complete the game first. But then again, I liked watching through the game so I could hear my lava death screams and all the other weird sounds that I had to make. So.
We'll have to get a compilation of all your lava death screens together and just share it. Yeah.
Just like a lava death remix going.
Someone's going to make that now and share it. I'm sure of it. So if you're listening, you want to put that together, let us know, and we'll.
Great.
If any of our listeners are music remixers, get on this. We would love to hear it. What lessons did you learn from recording Other M?
A lot. I mean, I feel like as an actor, you learn so much from every project you do. And Other M was my first job out of university, which sounds nuts. Again, I understand how crazy that sounds. And so I was very young and I don't want to say green, but kind of. And so that game was an opportunity for me to just like trust myself, listen to my instincts, and trust in my training. And that's kind of all you have as an actor on anything. Because like with any video game, you don't know what you're going to do. With, some TV shows don't give you the script until you get there. So you don't know what you're going to do sometimes, and you just have to be ready for anything. And you just have to trust that you have the stuff to make it work. And so I think those were some lessons I definitely learned. What else? Just plant your feet on the floor and speak. It's really, that's it. That's all I did. I still have the boots that I wore to every session. I wore the same boots, and I just can't get rid of them. I'm just like, no, I can't. I won't. So they'll probably just be in my closet until the day I die. Because I'll always remember, and I always stood in those boots. It's a little piece of memorabilia for me.
I'm guessing you didn't keep anything from the recording. Like they didn't give you like a Samus's helmet or something, or anything like that to take away.
No, I mean like, they give you like snacks and water bottles and all that stuff, but
sure,
those are long gone.
Now, you also did some work for Recore, and that game was made by former developers of the Metroid Prime series. What can you tell us about voicing for that game and how it compared to working on Other M?
Yeah, I mean, it was just not a different process, because when you record voiceover, it's generally the same. That game I got involved with because a colleague was working on it. It was like, hey, do you want to come and record some stuff? I'm like, absolutely, cool. So of course I got there, had no idea what I was going to do. And I think it was the one of the producers. He was like, okay, so we have these two characters, this one is, she's like a scientist. And so those lines were pretty straightforward. And also she's like, I think she was like slowly dying as she recorded these like kind of captain's logs. And I was like sick at the time. And so I'm just like coughing through the session, which right now in this pandemic sounds like an absolute nightmare. But at the end, it's like, like the effort noises we needed for her. And it was like coughing. I was like, oh, do you need me to do that? And he's like, no, we have enough. And then the second role is Violet, who is a little robot, and she's very sassy. And he said, okay, so Violet speaks her own language. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, and we don't know what that is. And so in, 20 minutes time, I had to essentially like come up with this robot language. And so I would do something and then he would give me notes. He's like, no, it's not quite like that. I think it's a little more, this or this. And so together we kind of found where Violet lives. And so talk about like feeling silly when you do something. Like ultimately she was almost like really guttural. And at the time, Game of Thrones was really a thing. And so I just kept thinking about like the Dothraki. And so then, of course, they do all the effects and things to it. But yeah, I walked into the studio, created a robot language, and 2 hours later I left. And that was that game.
So that was a
So,
much faster turnaround then, compared to other.
yeah, well, I mean,
yeah, huge.
the
Much less
these
smaller role
characters,
as well. Yeah.
they're a lot smaller, but same thing. You go into a booth, you approach the challenge for the day, and then you're done.
It just amazes me that you had to come up with like this whole like language and this character within 20 minutes or so, and then from there build on it, and that's amazing. Like in a way I'm questioning like how come they didn't have that from day one and they knew exactly what they wanted. But I guess with your help and support they were able to find that character and give it some life.
Yeah, I mean they had definitely like thought about it, and and so I had like what she was trying to say. Like if there were a translator, I had the translation. So I knew what she was trying to communicate, and it's nice for actors to be able to have that much input into a character, where producers or writers or directors can say, "Hey, could you help us out with this? We're not quite sure what it is yet." And then the actor can bring their experience and expertise to it and say, "Oh, okay, like is it like this?" And and have some like creative input as well. So it's a fun challenge. Sometimes you go in and they have everything laid out, like this is exactly what it is, and then sometimes you get to collaborate like that, which is also really fun.
I regret to say that I have not played Recall yet, and it is something that I'm going to do very soon. So I apologise in advance for not having the insight into what the game is.
I think I have it, but haven't actually played it. But I'm pretty sure I have it.
I played through it because I knew that the guys who made Metroid Prime had done it. And I don't know if that had anything to do with your casting. From what you said, I guess it didn't. Just an interesting coincidence. But I'm a completionist, so I collect all of the extra collectibles. And it was a very pleasant surprise when I picked up the audio logs for Natalie Bright. That's the name of the character. And I instantly knew it was you. And it was this euphoric feeling where Samus is in this game. Well, sort of.
Yeah. I know her.
Yeah. And Violet was also a very adorable character. I still love her very much.
Yeah, she's a lot of fun. I think if I were a robot, I'd be like Violet.
Yeah, I remember seeing it at E3 one year.
Oh, say that again?
Oh, I was just saying I remember seeing Recore at E3 one year and thinking it looked really cool and definitely wanted to play it. And I think I have it, so now I need to play it.
It's a good, like a good quarantine playthrough.
Yeah.
Yes. Just take my advice as someone who has completed it 100%. don't complete it 100%.
Oh, I wasn't planning on it.
It's a lot of effort then, I imagine. Yeah.
I still am deeply scarred by one of the dungeons, but I digress.
Nothing good ever happens in a dungeon.
No.
I'm sure it's got nothing to do with your performance. I'm sure it's just the game.
No. This is a grievance that I hope to air with someone else who worked on Recore. But
Now, you earlier had talked about how you've not just done voice acting, you've done stage and film and television and also directed. You're currently you produced a short film called For Patrick. Can you give us a little bit of background on the plot and development process on it and how it was producing a show rather than being cast in it?
Yeah. So For Patrick was my first short film that I made. I think I made it in 2012. And I have since made a web series and a few more shorts. And always, trying to write and develop other projects. And I just got to a point where, I was always interested in filmmaking. And, as an actor, you oftentimes, you can be typecast. You only get to play certain roles, and you don't always feel like you get to kind of run the gamut of all of your skills and, emotions and all of that. And so I had this idea, and so I just wrote out this little short film, and I approached some filmmakers that I had worked with. They cast me in their short, and I said, "Hey, I wrote a short. Would you help me make it?" And they were great, and they said, "Yeah." And so I cast a friend to do it with me, and we went out onto the Washington Peninsula, and it was freezing cold. Oh my God, it was freezing. And we shot it and all of this stuff. And so I didn't go to film school. So making all of these short films has been my film school, as well as being on sets. Whenever I'm on a set, I'm always looking at, what is everyone doing? How is the workflow? What's happening? Aside from my role as an actor, what is everyone else doing, and how does that relate to the project as a whole? And so really just, making my films has been, the first two were like, what roles do I want to play? And what footage do I want to have to maybe play stronger characters? And so that was kind of the impetus for the first two films. And then it became, what stories could I tell? What stories do I want to tell? And so now I really think about, like, what stories do I want to bring into the world? What stories do I think the world what stories do I think the world needs, right now? And so I've kind of evolved a lot in my process as a creator, as a filmmaker, and it is so stressful. It is so stressful because there are so many moving parts. There's so many people involved, but it's so rewarding, and I just love it so much, and so I keep doing it. And like I said at the beginning, stay stupid. Like, if you really think about everything that goes into making a movie, no one would ever do it because it's just awful sometimes. But if you just stay stupid enough, you're like, we can do it, guys. We got this. And in my experience, people say yes when you ask them, if they want to do something, and everyone works together. Anyone in this industry who, sticks with it, I guess, they're in it because they love it and they have that spark and they caught that bug. And I just love being in a space with all of those people. One of my favorite things as a filmmaker is being able to give someone the opportunity to do what they're good at and do what they love. And I just love watching people in that context and being in that space. So that was a very long-winded answer to that question. But Fort Patrick was just me dipping my toes in. And since then, it's just grown from there.
So you mentioned earlier that you've worked on audiobooks, and on your blog, you're listed that you've narrated and produced some. Do you have a favourite that you would recommend, just in case people haven't listened to them before, they don't know of them? And do you have plans to record more in the future?
I don't know that I have a favourite of them. Really, I have only narrated 2, and then there's one more that actually my best friend narrated and I produced. And so they're all, the 2 that I did were YA fiction, and then the one I did with Emily is like a clean romance kind of fun story in this book series.
Mm-hmm.
And audiobooks are a lot of work. They're not for everybody. And I love narrating. I love doing voiceover and voice work. What I don't like is editing and mastering and all of that stuff, which I had to do when I was producing the audiobooks. And so I kind of just got burnt out on it. And I think enough time has gone past now that I'm like, yeah, I kind of want to try that again.
Yeah.
So maybe if I could have someone else doing the editing and mastering and all of that stuff, and I could just focus on the performances, then that would be really fun. But they're on the shorter side, and I have them on my website if anyone wants to give them a listen.
Another thing we noticed on your blog is a picture of you taking up archery. So, what's the story behind that? Is that something you're still doing?
Yes. Well, with the lockdown, I haven't been able to do it. And I would never have categorized myself as a very athletic person. I really enjoy doing yoga and meditation, but I was never an athlete. But I did take a class, and in that class, I was doing some Chinese sword styles, which I really responded to. I really enjoyed. And so I looked up if there are any schools around me that taught that. And there was. And so I started taking some classes. With a lot of places, you can try all the classes for an intro fee. So it was one of those situations. And so I went there thinking I was going to do swords. And then I took an archery class, and, I had done archery in Girl Scout summer camp, and I was awful. And so I'm not expecting much. And so I start shooting. And so when I was a kid, I was a cellist. I played cello in some youth orchestras, and I played quite a bit, and it ended up really kind of messing up my right shoulder. So I can't really play the cello much anymore. And it was also really hard for me to do the sword practice because I am right-handed. And so then I go to archery, and within 3 arrows, my shoulder is just done. And so I was like, well, I guess this isn't for me. And then my master came over and he said, well, why don't you try shooting left-handed? And it was very awkward at first, but I have been a left-handed shooter for about 2 years now. So was one of those things where you just assume that you don't have the capability until someone says that there's another way. And so I think having that as my introduction to the practice was really impactful. And I also really like Chinese archery because it is, of course, you want to have an accurate shot, just for kind of aesthetics and for safety reasons. But it's also about meditation because where your arrow goes and how your arrow goes is a reflection of your mind. And so it's also a meditation practice. With every arrow you shoot, there is an inhale and an exhale, and you're trying to clear your mind and you're trying to be in relationship with your target, which is actually like an acting theory, is like an actor and a target. I think there's actually a book to name that. And so it was just kind of like a nice, consistent place to go every week. And since then, I've progressed in belt levels and, gained new skills. Some things are very difficult. Like anytime I have to turn, going back to me being a failed dancer. So there are some things that are more challenging than others. But I was very surprised and even a little shocked that Chinese archery became a part of my life. But I think if we are just open to new experiences and just keep our curiosity going our whole lives, like you never know what you're going to be doing next. And so it's just been a really lovely practice. And it is a practice because I don't think you ever perfect it. But unfortunately, the past few months, I haven't been able to do it. So hopefully I won't be completely awful by the time I go back.
I've always wanted to take up archery myself. I did a bit of it at my late uncle's cabin once, and then I ended up playing archery tag with some friends.
Nice.
Several months ago. I wore jeans because I didn't know I would be doing this. And you have to constantly crouch behind a lot of barricades.
Yeah.
And it ended up being like it was pretty much leg day without even trying. But it was so much fun.
Yeah, I haven't done that yet. I'll have to try. I don't know. I might be too competitive. I do love doing escape rooms. So maybe if there was some sort of like combo, like escape room, archery tag.
The place I went to actually was. So if there are any escape rooms nearby, they might also have that.
Yeah. That's, when this is all over and when it's safe for us to go out into the world, I'll look it up.
I just wanted to add a little bit there. You mentioned that you were a cellist. I also used to play the cello when I was at school a long time ago. Difficult instrument, at least I found. It was a pain to carry around, I know that much.
Especially when you're a kid and it's like bigger than you and you have to carry it around. I eventually got a case with wheels so you can, like roll it around.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I didn't do it for too long for a couple of reasons. They kind of put this fear into you, like, oh, if you break this cello, you've got to pay for it, and so I was very protective over it. Yeah. And then my sister was using it, and then she dropped it to the ground. I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't, because I had to take it home to practice. Yeah. So, and I couldn't because I knew that if I did that, there'd be a risk that it would be broken. So I had this anxiety of like just dropping it and breaking it and having to pay out a huge sum of money to replace it. But the other side of that was that my music teacher wasn't very encouraging, and she used to just put me down a lot and say, "You'll never amount to anything. You're no good." And I actually stopped playing cello and a few other instruments that I was doing at the time. So that's one of those things I've learned that I shouldn't let people get in the way of my dreams, really. If I enjoy doing something. So I think it might be too late to go back to it now, but who knows?
No,
maybe
it's never too late.
I could do something.
And I'm sorry you had that experience. And, I've had some teachers just really knock me down. And that anytime either if they do it to you or they do it to someone else, and if you see any instructor of anything, exhibit that behavior, like that means they should not be teaching you. They don't deserve to teach you. And that just makes me so angry. And I've been very lucky to have lovely teachers, whether it was, when I was doing music or as an actor, and people encouraging me, because I wouldn't be where I am without good teachers. And so I'm really sorry you had that experience. And, it's never too late. So if cello is still something you're into, please give it a go. I don't maybe get a little insurance plan on it so you don't have to worry about breaking it too much.
I don't think my sister will be throwing it around these days. She's in her 40s now. If she does, I might have to have a word with her. But yes, I think I think for me now, I think I'm more. I like to do vocals a lot more now.
Yeah.
But I still have a lot of passion for string instruments, and I love going to concerts and big orchestral performances and hearing them, and it's a great instrument. But it's good advice to other people out there as well, just to not let go of your dreams and to actually pursue them, regardless. It's sad if your teacher could do that, if they can make those kind of comments.
I had a lot that did that that were very much just on the way of you should quit.
But I have to say, I did have a lot of good teachers as well that were very encouraging. So yeah, it was unfortunately the music teacher that wasn't so nice, but yeah.
Well, there's a school around here that they're a performing arts magnet, and they have like a big performing arts program, and it's all of a sudden coming out of just how much bullying went on from the teachers towards the students, and how they would encourage the favorite students to do the same to the others. And I'm glad it's coming out, because I'm just seeing how unacceptable it was, and how all it does is just spread because a lot of their alumni ended up on Broadway. And so, it just kind of sets that precedent that it's okay to treat you like this, and it's to be accepted and expected to treat you like just absolute garbage. And so I'm glad it's finally coming out and people are trying to do something about it.
Yeah. I kind of feel we're off on a tangent now, but I think it's also really important. Like in the entertainment industry, especially, it's very toxic. And it does start at the educational level. That's where you learn how to be an actor. And that's not just like your acting technique, but like how to behave in that context. And if that just keeps going at every level, that's why we have these, just really toxic environments on sets, and, so many people taking advantage of so many other people. And it just like I can't tolerate any of that. Like there is no place for that. There is no need for that. It does not make people work better or like do their best. And so like I have no tolerance for that. If you're not going to be a good person, and that's one of the things I like about filmmaking, is that I get to decide who's on my sets. And so I know that it's going to be a positive environment. And I get to give that experience to people. So it makes me mad.
Yeah, I could do like a full-on segment of just things I've either seen or experienced. Just
oh, honey. Oh boy. I've been in LA now for 6 years, and
I imagine.
But yeah, it's basically everybody just follow your dreams. Only you get to decide when you're done with it. No one else. And if someone is being negative towards you, go find another teacher, because there's more. Like my archery master, there's someone out there who will say, well, if that's not working, try this. And then, 2 years later, here you are.
Let's assume that Nintendo asked you to come back and voice Samus again in a future Metroid game, which I hope does happen. But this time you had as much control over the character as you wanted. How would you approach Samus the second time around?
This is a question where I can't really say much. But I don't know. Like, if there is another Metroid story, I hope she reflects women in the world today. To kind of have like I feel like she's always been like, quote unquote, a modern woman. And I hope that continues as we can, move forward in time. I don't know. Maybe there could be like some cool like Metroid multiverse where all of us who have voiced her can like be involved. You don't want to put like all your eggs in one basket. You don't want to like. Oh, my granny uses like so many different sayings, and I'm trying to think of the right one right now. Oh, what you don't want to count your chickens before they hatch. That's the one. I knew it was something with eggs and chickens.
That's a popular one.
Yeah. Obviously, I love this character, and I very much enjoyed working on it. So I would love to have the opportunity again. But ultimately, that's not up to me, and so I don't know. We'll see what's next for Samus, because I'm ultimately just a big fan of hers, whether I'm involved or not.
What I hope doesn't happen is that the negative reception to Other M turns off Nintendo from trying something like that again. Like, even if they don't have as much dialogue as Other M does, I think future Metroid games are going to start to incorporate a bit more. So I hope that they don't just turn her into a completely silent character, because it was nice to have a glimpse into her as a person. And given what happens after Other M in Metroid Fusion, it would be interesting to see from her perspective how she feels, how she perceives what's going on, etc. And I hope they bring you back for that.
Thank you.
I'll just say quickly to that. Nintendo do tend to do. They're a great company in the fact that it's also a frustrating company when they will do their own thing, regardless of what people think. They will do what they think is best.
They're unpredictable.
You can't predict Nintendo, but they will do the things that they feel. They feel that they want to do, and that's so. All those opportunities are still on the table in the future. Anything is possible. So yeah, hopefully a new gig will come your way in the future. If it's not with Samus, possibly with another character.
Yeah, well, we'll see.
Now, we touched on it a good bit earlier, but what advice do you have for anybody that has been bitten by the acting bug and really wants to pursue a career in acting?
Oh, like, where do I start? I kind of, went off on a rage tangent there talking about like teachers and toxic environments. So you don't have to stay in anything like that. No toxic environments. Let's turn the tides here. But if you really want to pursue a career as an actor, that means something very different than if you just want to be an actor. Because having a career as an actor means that it's a marathon and not a sprint. And so mentally, you really have to get around that, because, you're going to have good years, you're going to have bad years. You're going to do things that people don't like. You're going to do things that people love. But in order for you to have a career as an actor is you need to have good training. I'm very thankful for my university training, but it didn't stop there. I went to study improv, and I'm still training to this day. Like, it never stops as an actor. So invest in good training and know that you will always be doing it, and don't ever think that you're going to be done with it. And also trust your instincts, because the great thing about actors is that, and the magic of casting is that you're bringing specific people to a project that have their own experiences and their own voices and their own qualities and essences. And that's what makes performances special. And just know that you have your own, quality and essence that makes things special. And don't try to be like anyone else, because you can't. You can't be someone else. You can only be you. And it took me a long time to really understand that, and to really, I guess, be comfortable with myself. And so just trust your instincts, believe in yourself, and yeah, I guess just stick it out for the long haul, because there's going to be a lot of amazing experiences that you have, and you're going to meet so many amazing people. People I would never have met if I hadn't done, certain projects. I've been to places in the country and in the world that I never thought I would, but because of my job, I got to do that. So I love being an actor. And so if you really love it as well, give it a go. And I mean, now it's very difficult because of the constraints of our world, but there's I've been in 2 Zoom plays. There's so many opportunities to still be an actor right now. So don't let anything stop you if it's what you want to do.
And of course, during this lockdown as well, it gives people a bit of time to really research it and think about it carefully and look at the opportunities available to see what's possible.
Yeah, it's also a good time for those who have been pursuing this career for a while. Like for me, I can speak to, just personally, you're going, you can get really burnt out. And so I've had the opportunity to take a pause and just think, what about this art form is important to me? And what about this do I want to do more of and continue or do differently or whatever it is? Or, looking up classes that are taught online that I can take, reading plays that I haven't read, a lot of Shakespeare I've read or worked on this lockdown, because everyone has access to it. And so you can just get a group of friends together and read through a Shakespeare play, and you're working on your craft. And, Shakespeare's universal. So there's always something people connect to in that. And, you can gender bend characters. There are almost no limits when it comes to Shakespeare. But yeah, read, relax. Those are often things that we don't get to do as working actors, because pursuing a creative career, whether you're an actor, or musician, or whatever, you're often juggling so many different jobs just to make ends meet. And so it's an unfortunate circumstance where we're taking a break right now, but it's a break nonetheless, and we can kind of recenter and refocus on what's important to us as artists.
So finally, let's round off this interview by paying tribute to Metroid Other M, and how this month, August 2020, marks its 10th anniversary. How do you feel about its legacy? And do you have a message that you'd like to share with the fans?
I mean, I said earlier, but I can't believe it's been 10 years. But also, I feel like milestones like that are always really cool and important. And, like I said, I get to look back and remember the woman the young woman that I was whenever I recorded this, and see, 10 years later, who am I now? Where am I now? So for me personally, that's very cool. But also, like, I just can't help but marvel at just the Metroid community. Like, I had no idea whenever I was recording this game that I would, form relationships with folks like you, Darren, where 10 years later, we would be, hopping on the phone, hopping on, a podcast together to talk about it. Like, that's wild, but also, like, so cool. And I know some folks didn't like the game, but overall, I have found the Metroid community to just be so supportive and welcoming. And y'all do some really cool stuff together that I've just been really impressed by. And so I think, yes, we're celebrating this game 10 years later, but, it's a time to celebrate the community 10 years later and all that this Metroid community has done in 10 years together. And think about what y'all want to do going forward. None of us know about another game, but, we all have this appreciation for the games that already exist and this universe that already exists, and to enjoy it together. So I guess for everyone to just celebrate each other right now.
I think that's really good advice, and I completely agree. I think there's a whole history of Metroid games and content, and I completely agree with you about the community. I think the community is absolutely fantastic. Like any community, you always get people that people may not appreciate or they may not like to communicate with. But I think just as fans, the Metroid community for me is a very passionate place. They're very passionate people. They're very creative, and I wouldn't do what I do. I wouldn't run a website dedicated to this series if it wasn't for the community, for those people. And yeah, overall they're fantastic, and I'm very proud to represent a small part of that with Shinesparkers. Thank you very much for what you did and your contribution to Metroid, and for joining us here today and allowing us to give you this interview. It really means a lot.
Thank you for having me. Like, I always feel so, I guess special is the word. I'm like, oh my goodness, someone wants to talk to me about this thing I did. Oh wow. So I feel very fortunate to be here. So thank you for asking me, and this has just been a delight. So happy 10 years, everybody.
Now, as we head into our group discussion, we'll be talking about our favorite scenes from Metroid Other M. Each of us are going to answer what we like the best, and then Jessica, of course, if you have any comments about any of those scenes, you are absolutely welcome to share them. So Darren, what was your favorite?
Wow. There was a lot of amazing scenes in that game. I just need to say, first of all, the cutscenes for Metroid Other M were absolutely phenomenal. The company behind that, D-Rockets, I believe they're called, fantastic. Yes. Some really, really impressive stuff there. But I think the one that stands out the most to me has to be the opening cutscene, where Mother Brain destroys the baby Metroid and it explodes over Samus's head. And it was just so impressive to see such an iconic moment from Metroid's history just played out in a cinematic cutscene. I never would have expected to have ever seen that. So that was just going into the game with that was incredible. I absolutely loved it.
I also loved that scene, and it was amazing to see it when it was first shown in the initial E3 trailer. It's a masterful flashback. My favorite cutscene actually is the ending cutscene, where Samus is leaving the bottle ship and flying back to Galactic Federation headquarters. She takes the time to reflect on her mission. She passes through a couple of uh, clouds of space dust that look like Adam's face and MB's face, and she talks about them and uh, how misunderstood MB was and whether Adam had made the right decision. When she gets back to headquarters and she's in that hallway where she always looked out the window as an army soldier, it felt like a very powerful full circle moment because I felt like Samus was on this journey throughout the game, reconciling with Adam about the incident that led to their separation and coming to grips with her actions in the past. During that scene, you can tell that a weight has been lifted off of her shoulders. She gives a slight smile before she runs off, and it's like she's got a new purpose again, and she's able to face whatever mission she gets next, which a couple days later happens to be going back to get his helmet. But that really stood out to me.
For me, seeing Samus's face during the scene at the beginning with Mother Brain and Baby Metroid, it starts off the game humanizing Samus. It's so easy just to think of her as like just a suit of armor that shoots lasers, and we start to see her as more of a complex character. The very first time I ever saw Samus, I thought she was a robot. I was like 12, I didn't know any better. And so then as you go further into the game, when we're introduced to Adam and Samus talks about being part of the Galactic Federation army and how she sees Adam as a father figure, we get deeper into her character, finding out how she uses her anger and stoic attitude as a defense mechanism for fear of letting anybody in, but also appreciates how Adam recognizes Samus as delicate without treating her like an idiot. And I think that says a lot about the character.
Yeah, that's great. I agree with you on that because that scene was just really powerful, and it just sort of set the tone of who Samus was throughout that game.
And I mean, it shows that she's vulnerable without her just flat out going, "Hey, look at me, I'm vulnerable." It's her just talking about all the shields she puts in front of her.
For all the people who say, "Oh, Samus is whiny," or an emotional brat, she specifically tries to cover up her vulnerabilities. So that's not the case at all.
I just think for just Samus as a whole, she just comes across as a character that's been through so much trauma and so many bad moments throughout her life, but she's always remained a decent person and a kind person, and it hasn't changed her. Like she's always been compassionate. I think it's a great role model. Samus is a fantastic role model for that. Jessica, was there anything that you wanted to add to any of that we've just said?
No, I just love hearing. I love hearing everybody's favorites. What resonated with certain people. I do have a favorite scene. I'm not going to say what it is, but
it was falling into the lava, right?
Oh well, yeah, obviously. No, but one of the cutscenes, one of the scenes that was I got to use a little more acting than just falling into lava. But I do. It was a day that was a little different in process, and I just kind of got to do my thing, and I love how it turned out. I'm not going to say what it is. We'll see if anyone can guess, but I do have my favorite as well. I'm probably not supposed to, but I do.
Well, Jessica, I cannot thank you enough for joining us on the podcast with us today. Now, if fans want to keep up to date with your work or support you further, where can they find you?
Yeah, I have my website, jessicaaaronmartin.com. It has films that I've made, the audiobooks I've worked on. I try to just compile everything onto there. So visit there for sure. I'm also on Instagram. I think it's Jessica Aaron Martin. I should know my own Instagram handle. It's embarrassing. Some of them are like Jessica E. Martin, and then some of them, Jessica Aaron Martin on Instagram. I'm not always super active, but I always try to post any projects I'm working on or anything that you can watch or listen to. So find me on the interwebs.
I just want to say thank you so much for joining us. It's really special to have you here and to hear lots of great stories about Other M and your work. And thank you for the support over the years as well. I know that we've done a few things together where we celebrated the 25th and the 30th anniversary of Metroid, and I still watch every New Year the video that you played the guitar on video for us, and that was cool. Just thank you for all of the support over the years. It really means a lot.
Yes, absolutely, my pleasure.
I also want to add something. I'm so happy that I was able to be a part of this and talk to you. I've wanted to do that for so long. I don't know if you remember this, but last year I actually sent you my copy of Other M to sign along with the letter. And that was really special.
Oh, I don't remember. I do get a few of those, so it's hard for me to differentiate, but I'm so glad that you sent that. And to anyone listening, I am happy to sign, games, and all of that. Fan mail information is on my website, but I feel so special being able to do that. So I'm so glad that you did reach out, and then I did get to sign something for you. Some folks send me things, and I keep them all. They're very special to me. So so thank you for sending it to me, giving me that opportunity to do that.
Well, everybody, thank you so much for listening to episode 8 of the Shinesparkers podcast. You can visit us on shinesparkers.net, and we'll see you next mission.
See you next mission.
See you next mission.
See you next mission.
I'm excited to get to talk with you too, because I've been acting since I was 12 myself. So
nice.
Always like to get to talk shock with got tongue tied. I always get tongue tied when I get excited and start talking.
I stutter.
First blooper.
Always. All right, I'm gonna quiet my cat real quick before I say my Bentley.
I'm hearing footsteps
Bentley,
upstairs. I hope the recording isn't picking them up.
Bentley, stop.
Well,
he's just loudly licking himself, and he has so much fur.
Oh.
All right. Don't give me stop, Bentley. Can you guys hear that?
No,
No.
I can't hear
him
it.
licking
Nope,
himself.
can't hear it at all.
Okay, because he was getting to a point where I could hear him chewing on himself with my headphones on, so that's why I was a little worried.
Oh.
You'll hear it louder on your side, I'm sure, but editing wise, it'll be a non-issue.
Okay, I'm just making sure it's not coming through on the mic. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
no, it's fine.
Sorry about that.
No problem. Did I lose you there? I'm not sure.
No, I'm still. Sorry, I had to have a drink of water.
I think I don't know. It sounded like you cut off abruptly. I'm not quite sure what happened.
Oh, I might have just ended a question or ended the sentence, and I'm like, cool, I'm done. Great.
There's a whole chunk of this that's going to have to be cut out, but that's okay.
That's fine.
It's the bonus content.
Yeah.
We were talking about eateries and local business and all kinds of things while you was gone. We had a good chat.
And how I can't stand salad.
Oh, yeah,
I can't
there's a lot of
either.
salad haters.
Thank you. It's satanic.
It's just I want every salad to be a pizza, and
Every salad.
it's just not.
Every
so.
salad should be a pizza, and it's not.
Yeah.
And it drives me up the wall.
Well, I'm glad we have that in common.
So am I.
And there's me saying that I don't mind
And
salads.
I'm over
I
here
like something
loving
with the
salad. I was
though.
that weird kid who was in elementary school going, I love salad and vegetables. Those are my favorite.
I mean, as long as it's the least salad-like there's a lot of stuff in it, then I guess I can eat it. Anyway, you were going to ask me a question. I'm sorry.
Totally fine. I'm happy to talk with you about whatever.
I was going to say, we'll have to have a separate podcast just about food and another one about, just Amanda and Jessica talking about
acting
all
and
these
stuff.
different acting roles and theater roles and all this kind of stuff.
All of the Shinesparkers, like, offshoot podcasts.
Yes. Yeah.
If you all want to see that, then give us a thumbs up and let us know.
That's right.
Well, it'll be a thumbs down, won't it?
Oh, yeah. It's very confusing.
Oh,
I get it.
yes.
Yeah.
It's very confusing.
Yes.
And then you're like, wait, do they know? Is it an actual thumbs down or is it like the thumbs down? So it's tricky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This podcast was edited by Stefan Wells, with music by Maserati. If you enjoy the podcast, please consider checking out our social media pages on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. For the latest Metroid news, community features, and exclusive content, check out the website at shinesparkers.net. See you next mission.